The
Hey,
phone
look
rang
at
at
me. It's gonna be
2:47 in
okay.
the
I'm
morning.
scared.
Marlene Bridger
I
reached
know.
for it
I
in the
mean,
dark, her hand finding the cold glass of the screen before her eyes even opened. 16 years of riding motorcycles and rebuilding engines had trained her body to wake fast. Afghanistan had trained her to wake faster. She answered on the third ring. Bridger. The voice on the other end was careful, measured, the kind of voice that had been trained to deliver terrible news without breaking. Ms. Bridger, this is Judith Pratt, New Mexico Child Protective Services. I'm calling about Josie Caldwell. Wren's hand stopped halfway to the lamp on the nightstand. The name hit her like a fist to the sternum. Caldwell. She hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in over 2 years. Hadn't allowed herself to think it most days. But it lived in her bones the way shrapnel lives in flesh. Buried deep. Always there. What happened? She's at Presbyterian Hospital in Albuquerque. Admitted 4 hours ago. 3 broken ribs. Fractured wrist, contusions across her back and shoulders. Her stepfather says she fell down the stairs. Wren was already sitting up, already swinging her legs over the side of the bed, already reaching for the jeans draped over the chair. Did she fall down the stairs? Silence on the line. The kind of silence that says everything words refuse to. Ms. Pratt, did she fall? The doctors don't believe so. The pattern of injuries is inconsistent with a fall. But her stepfather is a decorated police officer with the Albuquerque department. He has colleagues. He has connections. And unless we can establish grounds for emergency removal within 24 hours, she goes home with him tomorrow. Wren stood in the dark bedroom, barefoot on cold tile, her reflection caught in the window glass. 50 years old, silver threading through dark hair she kept short enough to fit under a helmet, hands scarred from engine work and older things. Eyes that had seen men die in dust and heat, and had never quite lost the vigilance that comes from surviving what others didn't. How far? From Tucson to Albuquerque. How far? You're in Tucson. That's roughly 620 miles. I'll be there in 8 hours. Don't let her leave that hospital. Ms. Bridger, I need to explain the legal parameters of this situation. You're not listed as next of kin. You have no formal custodial standing. If Officer Sloan pushes for discharge with his legal team, there's very little I can do to prevent it without a court order. Then I'll bring a court order. And I'll bring something else. What's that? Family. She hung up, stood there in the darkness, breathing hard, not from exertion, from the weight of 16 years pressing down on her chest like a boot. On the wall above her desk, a photograph. She didn't need to turn on the light to see it. She had memorized every detail long ago. Tanner Caldwell in desert camouflage, 24 years old. That stupid grin he always wore, the one that said the world couldn't touch him. 3 months before a roadside bomb proved the world could. The memory came whether she wanted it or not. Helmand Province, summer heat that could melt the soles off your boots. Wren was running. She was always running in that memory, running toward the smoke and the screaming and the twisted metal that used to be a Humvee. She was a combat medic. That was her job. Run toward the thing everyone else runs from. Tanner was on the ground, half his body torn apart by the blast. He'd pushed her. That was the part that lived in her nightmares. She'd been standing right next to the vehicle when the IED detonated and Tanner had thrown his body into hers, knocked her sideways, taken the full force of the explosion meant for both of them. She reached him in 9 seconds, ripped open her med kit, started working. But she'd been a medic long enough to know the difference between wounds you could fix and wounds that were already finished. His hand found hers, grip weak, fading. Wren. I'm here, don't talk. I'm working. Stop. Listen. His eyes were going glassy, blood soaking into the sand beneath them. Promise me. Tanner, don't. Promise me you'll watch over Shelby and the baby. Josie. Promise me. And she had looked into the eyes of a dying man who had saved her life, and she had said the only thing she could say. I promise, brother. I promise. He died with his hand in hers, 24 years old. A wife at home, a daughter he would never see grow up, and a promise extracted from a woman who meant every word of it. For a while she had kept that promise, sent money to Shelby every month, called, visited on holidays and birthdays, watched Josie grow from an infant into a toddler, into a little girl with her father's eyes and her mother's laugh. She was Uncle Wren, she was family. Then Shelby married Garrett Sloan, a police officer, Clean record, good reputation, steady paycheck in a house with a yard, and everything Wren couldn't provide. Sloan made it clear slowly at first, and then not slowly at all, that Wren wasn't welcome. That Josie didn't need a woman on a motorcycle showing up and reminding everyone that her real father died in a war. Wren fought it, for a while. Then she stopped fighting. Told herself Josie was in good hands. Told herself Sloan had it covered. Told herself that the ache in her chest was just guilt, not warning. She was wrong about all of it. "I'm sorry, Tanner. I'm coming now." She pulled on her boots, worn smooth from 10,000 miles, grabbed her leather vest from the hook by the door. The iron shepherd's patch across the back. The name she'd earned. Wren. Because wrens are small and common, and nobody notices them until they start singing, and then you can't ignore the sound. She dialed Boone first. 4 rings. Then a voice like gravel poured over the sandpaper. "Whoever this is, it better involve blood or bail money. It's Wren. I need the club." "Everyone. We ride at dawn. Wren, it's 3 in the morning." What the hell is happening? Tanner Caldwell's daughter, 14 years old, in the hospital right now with broken bones. Her stepfather's a cop and he put her there. They're sending her back to him tomorrow unless we stop it. A long pause. She could hear Boone processing. Boone was the vice president of the Iron Shepherds, 6'4", beard to his chest, built like a bridge pylon. But his mind worked faster than people expected. That was why Wren trusted him. Where Albuquerque? 620 miles. Another pause. Then his voice changed, dropped into the register that meant he was already moving. "How many do you want? Everyone who can throw a leg over a bike." "Everyone. Give me 2 hours. I'll make it happen." She dialed Colton Ashford next, former Iron Shepherd, now a defense attorney in Phoenix. The phone rang twice. "Do you have any idea what time it is? I need emergency custody papers filed tonight." Girl being abused by a cop. Stepfather. "He's got connections in the department and a lawyer already on retainer. I need you to get in front of this before he buries it." The sleep cleared from Colton's voice like fog burning off asphalt. He was awake now. She could hear him reaching for a pen. "Give me everything." Wren laid it out in 90 seconds. Josie Caldwell, 14, 3 broken ribs, fractured wrist, contusions. Stepfather Garrett Sloan, Albuquerque PD, officer with commendations and a clean jacket. "I'll file electronically within the hour emergency petition for temporary guardianship under your name. But Wren, if this guy's connected the way you say he is, this won't be clean." "Cops protect their own. I don't need clean. I need her safe. I'm riding up. Meet me there. I'm leaving Phoenix in 20 minutes. And Wren, be careful. A cop with something to hide is more dangerous than a cop who's just mean." She called Cutter next, 73 years old, the oldest rider in the Iron Shepherds, the toughest man Wren had ever known. Former Marine, 3 tours, walked with a limp from a piece of shrapnel in his left knee that he refused to have removed because, as he put it, it was a conversation starter. "Someone better be dying," Cutter growled into the phone. "Tanner Caldwell's daughter, riding to get her at dawn. I need you." A beat of silence. When Cutter spoke again, his voice had changed. Softer, heavier. "I knew Tanner. Good soldier, good kid. Didn't deserve what happened to him. None of them did. Saddle up, girl. I'll see you in 2. How many we got?" "Everyone." Boone's rounding them up now. "Good. Tanner would have done the same for any of ours." She made 6 more calls after that. Every single one answered the same way. Different words, same meaning. "I'm in." Teachers and mechanics. A nurse and 2 construction workers. A retired firefighter. A woman who ran a feed store outside Tucson. That was what the Iron Shepherds were. Not outlaws, not a gang, just people who'd seen enough of the world to know that some promises outlast the people who make them. By 4:30 in the morning, Wren was geared up. She walked into the garage attached to her apartment. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, kitchen barely big enough for 1 person. But the garage was something else. It was where she rebuilt cars and motorcycles. It was where she made her living. More than that, it was where she made sense of a world that had tried to break her more than once. Her Harley Road King waited in the shadows, black and chrome, built from scrap and stubbornness after she came home from Afghanistan with a purple heart and a head full of ghosts. She'd rebuilt the engine herself, replaced every gasket, every bearing, every seal. The bike was the one thing in her life she'd never let fall apart. She kicked it to life. The engine caught and roared. The sound filled the garage, bounced off the concrete walls, rattled the tools hanging on their hooks. One more ride, old girl. One more promise. By 5 in the morning, the truck stop parking lot on the south side of Tucson was filling up with motorcycles. The rumble of engines mixed with the cold desert air and the smell of exhaust and coffee and nervous energy. Headlights cut through the pre-dawn dark. Riders rolled in from every direction, some still pulling on their vests, some with thermoses in one hand and helmets in the other, some who had clearly not slept and didn't care. Boone saw her first. He was standing beside his bike in the center of the lot, his massive frame silhouetted against the fluorescent lights of the station. He raised a fist when Wren pulled in. "President's here." She killed her engine, dismounted, looked around, counted bikes. 40, 50, 60. Cutter rolled up on his trike, custom built because his bad knee wouldn't let him balance a standard bike anymore, but nothing on earth was going to keep him off the road. He pulled up beside Wren and killed the engine. "Told you she'd have her army." Renna walked over. The club's only other female rider. Trauma nurse at the VA hospital in Tucson. She joined the Iron Shepherds 3 years ago and had ridden more miles than half the men in the club combined. Short dark hair, steady eyes, the kind of calm that only comes from having seen the worst and learned to function through it. Boone told us, Tanner's daughter, broken ribs, cop stepfather. Yeah. Then we ride. Red came next. Big man, quiet voice. High school English teacher who looked like he should be bending rebar instead of grading essays. He had a book tucked into his saddlebag the way other men carried weapons. "Ren, what's the play when we get there?" "When we get there, we show up. We stand witness. We make sure that hospital knows she's not alone. We make sure that cop knows the world is watching." More bikes rolled in. The rumble grew. It echoed off the dark hills. It shook the gravel under their boots. By the time Wren counted the last bike, the parking lot was full. Boone walked up, 97 riders, sister, everyone who could make it. She looked at them. 97 people who had left their beds before dawn because she'd asked. Mechanics and teachers and nurses and carpenters and veterans and people who'd seen enough of the world to know that when someone needs help, you show up. You don't ask questions. You don't calculate the cost, you show up. Her throat tightened. She swallowed it down. Then a voice cut through the murmur. "Hold on." Wade, standing beside his bike at the edge of the lot, arms crossed, face hard. Wade had been with the Iron Shepherds for 12 years. Road captain, good rider, but cautious in the way that sometimes looked like wisdom and sometimes looked like fear. 97 bikes rolling into a hospital parking lot in Albuquerque. You know what that looks like to people who don't know us. It looks like family showing up. It looks like a gang. It looks like intimidation. That cop's going to call his buddies. Media's going to show up. And every camera in that city is going to see leather and patches and tattoos, and they're going to write a story that has nothing to do with a little girl and everything to do with criminals. We're not criminals. I know that. You know that. But the world doesn't know that. And when this blows up, and it will blow up, it's not just you who pays the price, Wren. It's all of us. Our families, our eyes, everything we've built. Silence. Wren could feel it ripple through the group. Doubt. The first crack in the foundation. Some riders shifted on their feet. A few looked at each other. Wade wasn't wrong. That was the problem. He wasn't wrong about the optics. He wasn't wrong about the risk. Wren stepped forward. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Wade, you're right, every word of it. This could blow back on us. Media could twist it. Cops could escalate. We could all end up in handcuffs on the evening news. And if that scares you, then stay. No judgment. This isn't a vote. This isn't an order." She looked at him, then at the rest of them. 14 years ago, a soldier named Tanner Caldwell died saving my life. Before he died, he made me promise to watch over his daughter. I failed. I let that promise rot for 14 years because it was easier than keeping it. Now that girl is lying in a hospital bed with broken bones because I didn't do what I swore I would do. Her voice didn't crack, but it came close. I'm riding to Albuquerque, not because it's smart, not because it's safe, Because I owe a dead man and a broken girl. Anyone who wants to ride with me, ride. Anyone who doesn't, stay. But I'm going, and I'm going now. Silence. Then Cutter spoke. His voice carried across the lot like a church bell. I served with men who died keeping promises. I'll be damned if I sit here while one gets broken. I'm riding. Boone stepped forward. I'm riding. Renna. I'm riding. Red. I'm riding, one by one. Voice after voice. 96 people stepping forward or raising a hand or simply mounting their bikes. Wade stood alone. He looked at Ren for a long moment. Then he shook his head. I hope you're right about this. He swung his leg off his bike, walked to his truck, got in, drove away. Ren watched him go. She didn't blame him, but she carried his doubt like a stone in her pocket. It would stay there for the next 620 miles. Boone walked up beside her. You sure about this? No, but I'm going anyway. On the road, the convoy stretched like a river of chrome and leather. 2 columns, staggered formation, professional, the way Ren had trained them. Not a parade, not a show of force, a unit moving with purpose. Ren rode point, Boone on her left flank, Cutter's trike holding steady 3 rows back, Red and Renna somewhere in the middle. Whisper, the quietest rider in the club, a man who barely spoke 10 words on a good day, riding sweep at the back where he could see everything. Hour 1, Arizona desert. Empty highway stretching into nothing. Ren's phone buzzed in its mount. She checked it at the next straight away. Text from Colton Ashford. Emergency petition filed. Hearing tomorrow, 9 a.m. Judge Lorraine Beckett. She's fair but tough. Sloan already lawyered up. Union rep making calls. Robert Whitfield representing. Big firm. This is going to be a fight. She showed the screen to Boone at the next gas stop. Whitfield. Boone's face darkened. That guy gets cops out of everything. DUI, excessive force, you name it. Then he's never gone up against us. Ren pulled out her phone again, made 2 calls. The first to Sawyer, a certified mechanic who'd been with the club for 10 years. Built like a wrench. Could diagnose an engine problem by sound alone. Sawyer, I need you to do something before you ride up. Name it. Shelby Caldwell. Died 2 years ago, single vehicle accident. They said she was drunk. I don't believe it. Her car should be in a police impound lot somewhere in Albuquerque. I need you to find it. Examine it. Document everything. What am I looking for? Anything that says it wasn't an accident. She could hear Sawyer processing. I'll ride separately. Might take me longer to get there. That's fine. But Sawyer, if there's something to find, find it. The second call was to Whisper. I need you to leave the convoy. Ride ahead. Get to Albuquerque before us. Find Garrett Sloan. Don't approach. Don't engage. Just watch. I want to know where he goes, who he talks to, what he does. Stay invisible. Whisper said 3 words. On my way. Then his bike peeled off from the back of the convoy and disappeared down a side road like a ghost dissolving into daylight. Hour 2, gas stop in Silver City. Renna handed out water bottles and granola bars from the support van. Stay hydrated. It's going to be a long day. Ren stood apart, checked her phone. No new messages from Judith Pratt, she called. Ms. Pratt, status? She's still here. Stable. But Sloan's at the hospital. He's got 2 attorneys with him. Robert Whitfield and an associate. They're pushing hard for immediate discharge, saying the medical hold is unnecessary, that Josie's injuries are consistent with a fall, and the doctors. Dr. Warren wants to keep her. The rib fractures concern him. But if Whitfield brings enough pressure, the hospital administration might fold. Don't let them fold. We're coming, Ms. Bridger. I need to ask, how many people are you bringing? Enough. That's not a number. 97. Dead silence. Ms. Pratt, Mrs. Bridger, if you bring 97 motorcycles to this hospital, every cop in the county is going to respond. This could escalate into something that hurts Josie more than it helps her. They're not a gang. They're a family, veterans, teachers, nurses. They rode 600 miles because a 14-year-old girl needs to know that someone gives a damn. We'll be there in 3 hours. Don't let them take her. She hung up. Boone found her by the edge of the parking lot. You good? No. What happens if we get there and they've already released her? Ren's jaw set. Then we find where Sloane took her, and we go there. That's a line, Ren. I know exactly what line it is, and I'll cross it if I have to. But I'd rather not. I'd rather win this clean. Cutter limped over. You got a backup plan, because cops don't like being embarrassed. Dirty cops especially. Colton's our backup. Legal pressure, public pressure, Sawyer's looking into Shelby's death. And if all of that fails, then we don't leave. We stay outside that hospital or that house or that courthouse until someone with power does the right thing. Renna approached with 2 fresh water bottles, handed one to Ren, took a drink from the other. They stood in silence for a moment. Can I tell you something, Ren? Go ahead. I was 7 years old the first time my stepfather hit me. He broke my arm. Told the ER doctor I fell off the monkey bars. Everyone believed him because he wore a tie and had a firm handshake and smiled at the nurses. Nobody came for me. Not once. I waited for years for someone to show up, to notice, to care enough to do something. Nobody ever did. Renna's voice was steady, but her eyes were somewhere else. Somewhere 30 years ago. That's why I'm here. Because someone should have come for me. And nobody did. So I'll be the one who comes for her. Ren didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She just touched Renna's shoulder once. Briefly. Then they mounted up. Red rode beside Boone for a stretch. Boone noticed the book in his saddlebag. You planning on reading to her or something? Red was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke and his voice was different. Heavier. I had a student 3 years ago. 9th grade. Quiet kid. Good writer. Started missing class. Started flinching when people got too close. I saw the signs. I knew what they meant. But I told myself it wasn't my place. That his parents were dealing with it. That I should mind my own business. He paused. He killed himself on a Tuesday. Left a note that said nobody cared enough to help. I read that note at his memorial service, and I made myself a promise. Never again. So yeah, Boone, I'm going to read to her if she wants, and I'm going to stand outside her door all night if that's what it takes, because I didn't show up for that kid, and I'm damn well showing up for this one. They rode on. Hour 5, New Mexico border. The landscape shifted. Redder, drier. The sky enormous overhead. Ren's phone rang. Judith Pratt, Ms. Bridger Morrison is escalating. His lawyers just demanded a meeting with the hospital administrator. They're threatening legal action if Josie isn't discharged within the hour. Stall them. We're 90 minutes out. I'm trying. Dr. Warren is holding firm on the medical observation, but the administrator is nervous. Whitfield has a reputation. Then let Whitfield know that 97 witnesses are about to arrive, and a defense attorney with an emergency custody petition. That should give the administrator something to be nervous about besides a lawsuit. She could hear Judith breathing. Processing. Please hurry. Hour 6, Albuquerque city limits. The sun was starting its descent. Golden light cut across the highway like a blade. The city rose from the desert floor, brown and sprawling and indifferent. Ren pulled off at a rest stop. The convoy followed. 97 bikes, the sound of engines dying in sequence. Click, 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 like a heartbeat slowing, everyone dismounted. Ren stood on the hood of the support van so they could all see her. Last check. When we roll in, we do it calm. 2 lines. Engines off the second we park. No revving, no yelling, no leather inside the hospital unless I say so. We walk in like we belong. Because we do. Boone spoke up. What if Sloane's waiting with cops? Then we stay polite, hands visible, no sudden movements. But we don't leave. And we don't apologize for being here. Renna raised her hand. What about recording? If Sloane tries something, we need proof. 1-person documents. Quietly, phone in a pocket, no waving cameras and faces. We're not there to provoke. We're there to protect. Red stepped forward. One more thing, Ren. What's her name again? Josie Caldwell, 14 years old. Brown hair, blue eyes. And she looks just like her father. Red nodded. Then let's go get Josie. Cutter raised his coffee thermos. His hand shook slightly. 73 years of living will do that. But his voice didn't shake at all. To promise is kept. 97 voices echoed back across the empty desert air. To promise is kept. They mounted up. Ren kicked her Harley to life, rolled to the front of the formation. Looked back at the convoy stretching behind her. 97 riders, mechanics and teachers and nurses and veterans. All of them here because she asked. All of them willing to ride into whatever waited on the other end of this highway. Iron Shepherds, we ride for Josie. The convoy pulled onto the highway, 97 engines, one mission, one promise, 620 miles of debt coming due. They came down the boulevard like rolling thunder. The sound reached the hospital before they did. It rattled windows and turned heads and stopped conversations mid-sentence. People on the sidewalk looked up. Drivers pulled over. A woman standing outside the hospital entrance with a cigarette dropped it and stared. Ren led the formation into the parking lot, guided her riders into two perfect lines. Straight, clean, disciplined, 97 bikes, 97 riders, engines cut in sequence. The silence that followed was louder than the noise had been. They dismounted, stood beside their machines, helmets off, hands at their swords, waiting. Ren walked toward the entrance. Boone Cutter and Renana fell in behind her. The automatic doors opened. The lobby went dead quiet. Nurses at the reception desk froze. A doctor walking past with a clipboard stopped mid-stride. Two security guards standing near the elevator reached for their radios. Judith Pratt appeared from a hallway. She saw Ren. Then she saw the sea of leather and chrome through the glass doors. Her face went pale. "Oh my God." Ren walked up to her. "Judith Pratt, I'm Marlene Bridger." "Where's Josie?" Judith's hands were trembling. "Third floor, room 314. But her stepfather is upstairs with his lawyers. They've been pressuring the staff all day. If they see you with this many people, it could trigger a confrontation. It could. Or it could remind everyone in this building that a 14-year-old girl is not alone. I need 5 minutes with her." "Just 5. You're not listed as family. Hospital policy requires authorized visitors only. That girl's father died in my arms. I held his hand while the light went out of his eyes. And the last thing he ever said was my name and a promise about his daughter." 5 minutes. Let her know someone showed up. Judith looked at her, studied the lines in her face, the silver in her hair, the pain in her eyes that was 16 years old and still raw. Then she looked past Ren through the glass doors. 97 riders, silent, waiting. 5 minutes. If security comes, I didn't bring you up. They won't need to come. Judith nodded. "Follow me." They walked to the elevator. The doors closed. Just the two of them in the small metal box rising toward the third floor. "Why 97 people?" Judith asked quietly. "Because she needs to know someone cares. Not just me, a whole family." Third floor. The doors opened. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and recycled air, and the particular kind of sorrow that only exists in hospitals. Room 314. Judith stopped outside. "Sloan's in the waiting area down the hall with his legal team. He doesn't know you're here yet." "Good. Keep it that way as long as you can." Ren pushed the door open. The room was dim. Monitors beeped in a slow, steady rhythm. Fluorescent light from the hallway cut a thin line across the tile floor. And in the bed, small and bruised and bandaged, was Josie Caldwell. She looked exactly like Tanner. The same eyes, the same jaw, the same stubborn set to the chin that said the world could do its worst and she would still be here when it was done. Her eyes opened, confused at first, then something shifted. Recognition, memory, a door opening in a wall that had been sealed shut for 2 years. Ren. No, not that. The English version, the American version, the version that belonged to a girl in New Mexico who had lost everything. Aunt Ren. Ren crossed the room, knelt beside the bed, took Josie's hand. The girl's fingers were cold and thin, and they wrapped around Ren's calloused palm like a vine finding something solid to hold. "Hey, kiddo, I'm here. I'm sorry I took so long." Tears spilled down Josie's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. She didn't have the strength. He said no one would come. He said I was lying. He said nobody believed me. I believe you, and I brought some people who believe you too. What people? Look outside. Rena helped Josie sit up, slowly, carefully. The broken ribs made every movement a negotiation with pain. They turned her toward the window. From the third floor, the parking lot spread out below like a postcard of something impossible. 97 motorcycles, 97 riders, standing in silence, waiting, guarding a girl they had never met. Josie's breath caught, a sound between a gasp and a sob. Who are they? Your dad's family. My family. They rode 600 miles to stand with you. For me. For you, she sobbed. The kind of sobbing that comes from a place so deep it doesn't have a name. The sound of 2 years of silence cracking open. The sound of a girl who had been told she was worthless, discovering that 97 strangers thought she was worth driving through the night for. Wren held her hand and let her cry. Then the crying slowed, and Josie looked at Wren with eyes that were suddenly older than 14. Josie, I need you to tell me the truth. Did Garrett Sloan do this to you? She nodded. Has he done it before? Another nod. Your mom, Shelby, what happened to her? Josie's voice changed. It went flat, cold. The voice of a child who had learned to push emotions so far down it couldn't reach the surface anymore. He killed her. The room contracted. The monitors beeped. Renna, standing by the door, drew a sharp breath. Ren leaned closer. Are you sure? I saw it. They were fighting. About money. About leaving. She found bank accounts she didn't know about. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. When she told him she was taking me and leaving, he pushed her down the stairs. Then he carried her to the car, put her inside, drove away, came back an hour later crying, said she'd been drinking, said she crashed into a tree. Josie's eyes were dry now, dry and distant and terribly clear. But she wasn't drinking. She was trying to save me. And he killed her for it. Wren's blood ran cold. Not hot, not the heat of rage, the cold of something deeper. The cold of a woman who had seen death in Afghanistan and recognized its fingerprints on a story told by a 14-year-old girl in a hospital bed. Okay, you're never going back there. You hear me? Never, but he's a cop. He has friends. Everyone believes him, and there are 97 witnesses outside who don't believe him. A lawyer filing papers right now. Your grandparents getting in a car as we speak. Everyone is about to know your story. You can't promise that. Wren squeezed her hand. On your father's grave, I promise. The door slammed open. A man stood in the frame, tall, clean-cut, the kind of handsome that looked good on a department recruiting poster. Cold eyes, the kind of cold that doesn't come from weather. Garrett Sloan, in uniform, 2 men in suits flanking him. Who the hell are you and what are you doing with my daughter? Wren stood, slowly, placed herself between Sloan and the bed. She was shorter than him by 6 inches. She was 50 years old. She weighed 140 pounds. But she stood in that doorway like a wall. I'm the woman who made a promise to her father. Sloan's face twisted. Recognition. Contempt. Tanner's biker friend. The medic with the motorcycle club. I told you years ago to stay away from my family. She's not your family. She never was. One of the lawyers stepped forward. Ma'am, you have no legal standing here. Leave now or we'll have you removed from the premises. Wren didn't look at the lawyer. She looked at Sloan. Then she spoke 3 words. Check the window. Something in her tone made Sloan pause. He walked to the glass, looked down at the parking lot. His face went white. What the hell is this? That's family. Something you wouldn't know about. Sloan's hand moved toward his belt, toward his weapon. Reflex, habit. The gesture of a man who was used to having power and suddenly finding it insufficient. Don't! Wren's voice was ice. You pull that weapon in a room with an injured child and 97 witnesses watching through a window. Your career ends tonight. His hand stopped, trembled, lowered. Then Colton Ashford walked in. Gray suit, briefcase, $300 haircut. He looked like money and law and the kind of problem that doesn't go away. Officer Sloan, Colton Ashford, attorney for Ms. Bridger, emergency custody petition filed with Judge Beckett's office. Hearing set for 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Until then, Josie stays where she is. Sloan's face went from white to purple. This is garbage. She's my daughter, stepdaughter Colton corrected. And the evidence suggests she needs protection from you, not by you. Sloan jabbed a finger at Wren. You brought a gang to intimidate. I brought witnesses. 97 people saying Josie Caldwell deserves better than a man who breaks children. Sloan lunged forward. Boone appeared in the doorway, stepped between them. The door frame creaked under his shoulders. That would be a mistake, officer. Sloan's lawyer grabbed his arm. Garrett, we're leaving. We handle this in court. Sloan stabbed a finger at Wren. His eyes were black holes. This isn't over. Wren's voice didn't waver. You're right. It's just beginning. Sloan stormed out. The lawyers followed. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway and faded to silence. Josie was crying again, but differently now. Relief mixed with terror, mixed with the first fragile thread of hope. Wren knelt beside her. You're safe now. I'm scared. I know, but you're not alone anymore. Colton closed the door, turned to Wren. His expression was grim. We need to talk. Outside. They stepped into the hallway. Colton kept his voice low. Wren, I found something in the filing system. Sloan's lawyers, Whitfield and Associates. They were retained 6 days ago. So, Josie was admitted 4 hours ago. Sloan hired a high-profile attorney 6 days before his stepdaughter ended up in the hospital. Wren felt the blood drain from her face. He planned this. Or he planned for the possibility of it. Either way, he knew there was a chance he'd need legal defense for what he was going to do to that girl. This isn't a man who lost his temper, Wren. This is a man who calculated the risk and decided a 14-year-old was worth it. The hallway was quiet. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere down the corridor, a machine beeped and a nurse spoke softly. Wren looked at the closed door of room 314. Behind it, a girl with her father's eyes and her mother's courage was lying in a bed with broken bones, waiting for someone to keep a promise that was 16 years overdue. Then we don't just protect her from him, Wren said. We take him down. Completely. How? Sawyer's already looking for Shelby's car. If Sloan killed her, there's evidence. There has to be. You don't murder someone and leave nothing behind. And Whisper's already in the city, watching Sloan, tracking his movements. By tomorrow morning, we'll know everything he's doing and everyone he's talking to. And if we don't find evidence, then we fight with what we have. Josie's testimony, her injuries, the pattern of abuse. We fight and we keep fighting until she's safe. Colton studied her. You know this is going to get worse before it gets better. Everything worth doing does. She looked at Colton, then at Boone standing guard by the elevator, at Renna visible through the door's small window, sitting beside Josie's bed, checking bandages with gentle hands, at Cutter, who had already positioned himself at the end of the hallway like a 73-year-old sentry who dared the world to try getting past him. 97 people had ridden 620 miles because she asked. Now she had to make it count. She pulled out her phone, dialed Sawyer. Tell me you're close to finding that car. I'm at the impound lot now. Give me until morning. If there's something here, I'll find it. Find it fast. We're running out of time. She hung up, walked back into room 314. Josie was still awake, still holding Renna's hand. Aunt Wren? Yeah, kiddo, don't leave. Wren pulled a chair beside the bed, sat down, took Josie's other hand. I'm not going anywhere. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever again. Josie's eyes searched her face, looking for the lie, looking for the catch, looking for the betrayal that 14 years of life had taught her to expect from the adults who were supposed to protect her. She didn't find it. Promise. On your father's grave. I promise. Outside, the sun settled behind the western mountains. The parking lot glowed amber in the fading light. 97 riders stood among their machines. Some sat on their bikes, drinking coffee from thermoses. Some stretched cramped legs and rubbed sore backs. Some stood in small groups, speaking quietly. But all of them watched the third-floor window where a small light burned in room 314. Because promises matter. Because family is not blood. It is loyalty. It is showing up when the world says don't bother. It is riding through the night for a girl you have never met because someone you love asked you to. And Marlene Wren Bridger was not breaking another promise. Not ever again. The hospital settled into its nighttime rhythm. The hallways dimmed, the visitors thinned. The only sounds were the soft beeping of monitors, the distant squeak of nurses' shoes on polished tile, and the low rumble of voices from the parking lot 3 stories below, where 97 riders held their ground. Wren organized the watch like a military operation, because that's what it was. 8 riders on duty at a time, 3-hour rotations. Boone at the main entrance, Cutter and 2 others at the east side door, Red covering the emergency exit near the loading dock, Renna inside room 314 with Josie. Every other rider either resting in the parking lot, sleeping in one of the 3 support vehicles, or standing loose perimeter around the building. Wren stayed at Josie's bedside. She didn't sleep. She barely moved. She sat in the hard plastic chair beside the bed, with her hand resting near Josie's close enough that the girl could reach for it if she woke, and she watched the door, the window, the hallway through the small rectangular pane of glass, the way she used to watch the perimeter of a forward operating base in Helmand Province. Old habits, the kind that keep you alive. Around 9 in the evening, Josie stirred, her eyes opened, confused for a moment. Then she saw Wren, and the confusion faded into something that wasn't quite peace but was at least the absence of terror. "You're still here. Told you I would be. What time is it?" "Late. You should sleep." "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see him." Wren moved the chair closer, adjusted the blanket over Josie's shoulders. "You want me to tell you about your dad?" Josie's eyes changed, a door opening somewhere deep, the part of her that was still a child, the part that still needed stories the way other people need oxygen. "Yeah. Tell me about him." Wren settled back, chose her words carefully, not because the truth needed editing, but because Josie deserved the best version of it, the version that honored who Tanner Caldwell really was. "Your dad was the kind of soldier who scared the hell out of his commanding officers. Not because he was reckless, because he was brave in a way that looked reckless if you didn't understand what was driving it. He never left anyone behind. That was his rule. If someone was wounded, if someone was pinned down, if someone was out there and needed help, your dad went and got them. Didn't matter what the order said. Didn't matter what the risk was." Josie pulled the blanket closer. "Was he big? Strong?" "Not especially. Average height, wiry. But he had this thing about him, this energy, like the air around him was charged. People wanted to follow him. Not because he demanded it, because he made you believe that whatever you were walking into, you'd walk out of it together." "Did he ever talk about me?" "Every single day. He carried a photo of you in his helmet liner, right against his forehead. Said it was his good luck charm. Said as long as he could feel you close, nothing could touch him." Josie's voice cracked. "But something did touch him." "Yeah, something did." "What was he reading?" "When he was over there, you said he liked books. Lord of the Rings. He must have read it 4 times on that deployment. Dog-eared pages, sand in the binding. He said it reminded him that even in the darkest places there was still something worth fighting for. Still some kind of magic left in the world." "Do you believe that?" Wren looked at the girl, 14 years old, 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, a dead mother, a father who existed only in other people's memories. And she was asking a 50-year-old woman on a motorcycle whether magic was real. "I believe you're here, and I'm here, and 97 people are standing outside in the cold because they believe in something bigger than themselves. If that's not magic, it's close enough." Josie almost smiled, the ghost of one, there and gone before it could settle. "Aunt Wren, yeah, do you think my dad would be mad at you for not coming sooner?" "Yeah, kiddo, I think he'd be furious." A pause. Then Josie's voice smaller than before. "But would he forgive you if I make it right?" "Yeah, I think he would. Your dad understood something about people. That we fail, that we fall. But what matters is whether we get back up. Is that what you're doing? Getting back up. That's what I'm trying to do." Josie's eyes grew heavy. She was losing the fight against exhaustion. But she held on long enough to say one more thing. "I'm glad you came." Then she slept. Wren stayed in the chair, listening to the rhythm of the monitors, watching the door, carrying the weight. Renna came back at 10 with a blanket and 2 cups of coffee from the nurse's station. "You need to rest, Wren. You've been up since 3 in the morning. That's almost 20 hours. "Can't. Not until she's safe. You're no good to her exhausted. I'm no good to her asleep either. Not tonight." Renna sighed, draped the blanket over Wren's shoulders, pulled up a second chair. "Then I'll stay up with you." "You don't have to." "Yeah, I do. That's what family does." They sat in the quiet for a while. The hospital breathed around them. Machines humming, footsteps fading, the kind of deep silence that only exists between midnight and dawn when the world forgets to watch. At 11:45, Wren's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "You made a big mistake. That girl is mine. Back off or this gets ugly." She showed it to Renna without expression. "That from Sloan. Has to be. He's threatening you. Let him." Every text is evidence. Every threat is another nail in his coffin. She screenshotted the message, forwarded it to Colton. Then she put the phone down and went back to watching the door. 12 minutes past midnight, Boone's voice came through her phone. Low, urgent. Ren, situation at the main entrance. 2 cops, uniforms, saying they've got a warrant for your arrest. Kidnapping charges. Ren's blood went cold. Not from fear, from recognition. She'd seen this play before. In Afghanistan, corrupt local police would forge documents to seize prisoners from military custody. Different country. Same tactic. She stood, looked at Renna. Stay with Josie. Lock the door if you hear anything wrong. She walked quickly down the hallway to the elevator. 3rd floor to 1st. The doors opened on a lobby that was tense and electric. 2 uniformed officers stood at the reception desk. Young, one nervous, one trying not to be. Pemberton, the head of hospital security, stood between them and the elevator bank, looking deeply uncomfortable, Officers Wren said. Her voice was level, controlled. The voice she used to use in triage when everything was falling apart and the only thing holding the room together was her refusal to panic. One of the officers turned. He was holding a piece of paper. Ma'am, we have a warrant for your arrest. Kidnapping of a minor child. You need to come with us. Wren didn't move. Let me see the warrant. The officer held it out. Wren took it, read it slowly, carefully, the way Colton had taught her to read legal documents years ago. Look for the details, he'd said. The devil lives there. She found the devil in under 30 seconds. This warrant has no judge's signature, no case number, no court seal. This isn't a warrant. This is a piece of paper someone printed on a laser jet. Ma'am, we were directed to. By whom? Who gave you this? The nervous officer looked at his partner. The partner's jaw tightened. Renna appeared at the elevator. She'd come down despite Wren's instructions because Renna didn't follow instructions when she sensed danger. She looked at the document over Wren's shoulder. Her eyes narrowed. There's no court seal, she confirmed. I've seen enough restraining orders and custody documents in the ER to know what a real one looks like. This is fake. Pemberton stepped forward. His face had shifted from uncomfortable to angry. Officers, I'm going to need to verify this with the issuing court before I let anyone leave this building. The nervous officer took a step back. His hand went to his radio. His partner grabbed his arm, whispered something. The partner's face changed. Calculation, risk assessment. The math wasn't adding up in their favor. We'll be back, the partner said. They left. The lobby exhaled. Pemberton turned to Wren. Ms. Bridger, I'm going to be honest with you. That didn't feel right. It wasn't right. Sloan sent them. He forged that warrant or had someone forge it for him, which means he has friends in the department willing to break the law for him. Pemberton rubbed his jaw. I have 2 daughters, 8 and 11. If someone was doing to them what you're saying is being done to that girl upstairs, I'd want someone like you standing in the way. Then help us. Don't let anyone pass this desk without proper documentation. Real documentation. Verified by phone with the issuing court. Pemberton looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. You have my word. Wren rode the elevator back to the 3rd floor. Her hands were steady. Her mind was not. Sloan had just tried to have her arrested on a forged warrant. That meant he was desperate. Desperate men make mistakes, but they also do desperate things. She stopped in the hallway, pulled out her phone, called Colton. 2 cops just showed up with a fake arrest warrant. Forged. No seal, no signature, no case number. They tried to take me into custody so Sloan could grab Josie. Colton was silent for 3 seconds. Then his voice went cold and precise. I'll file a report with the State Bar and the Police Oversight Commission first thing in the morning. If we can identify those officers, they're looking at felony charges for presenting a forged warrant. But Wren, this tells us something important. That Sloan has people inside the department. That Sloan has people willing to commit crimes for him, which means we cannot trust any law enforcement response tonight. If more cops show up, we have no way of knowing if they're legitimate or if they're Sloan's people. I already figured that out. From now on, we trust nobody outside this group. And I want everything recorded, every interaction, every face, every badge number. She hung up, texted Boone. From now on, anyone in uniform approaches, I want a camera on them. Badge number, name unit. Record everything. Trust no one wearing a badge tonight. Copy that. She walked back into room 314. Josie was still asleep. Rena was back in her chair checking the girl's vitals with the quiet efficiency of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. What happened, Rena asked. Sloan sent 2 cops with a fake warrant to arrest me. Get me out of the way so he could take Josie. Jesus. Ren sat down, looked at the sleeping girl. He's got allies in the department. This is bigger than one dirty cop. What do? We survive until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then we get in front of Judge Beckett and we show her everything. At 1 in the morning, Ren made the hardest phone call of the night. She dialed a number she hadn't called in over 2 years. It rang 4 times. She was about to hang up when a voice answered. Older. Tired. The voice of a woman who had stopped expecting good news a long time ago. Hello? Lorraine, it's Marlene Bridger. Ren. Silence. Long enough that Ren thought the call had dropped. Ren, oh my God, where are you? What happened? Are you all right? I'm in Albuquerque, at Presbyterian Hospital, with Josie. Another silence. Heavier this time. Josie's in the hospital. Garrett Sloan put her there. Broken ribs, fractured wrist, bruises across her back and shoulders. No. And Lorraine, there's more. Josie told me something about Shelby, about the night she died. She could hear Lorraine breathing, fast, shallow. The breathing of a woman standing on the edge of something she had always suspected but never had the courage to face. Tell me, Josie says Sloan killed Shelby, pushed her down the stairs after a fight about money, hidden bank accounts. Then he put her in the car and drove it into a tree, staged it to look like a drunk driving accident. The sound that came through the phone was not quite a scream and not quite a sob. It was something in between, something that comes from the deepest part of a mother's chest when the worst thing she ever feared is confirmed. I knew, oh God, I knew something was wrong. Shelby called me that night, that very night. She told me she'd found bank accounts she didn't know about. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. She said Garrett was furious. She said she was scared. She asked if Josie could come stay with us. And what did you tell her? I told her to call the police. And she said, her voice broke. She said, he is the police. Lorraine, wow. Those were the last words my daughter ever said to me. He is the police. And 2 hours later, she was dead. Ren closed her eyes, pressed her forehead against the cold wall of the hospital hallway. Lorraine, I need you and Holt to come to Albuquerque tonight. There's an emergency custody hearing at 9 in the morning. I need you to testify. Tell the judge about that phone call. Tell her about the bank accounts. Tell her about how Sloan cut you and Holt off from Josie. We'll be there. Ren, we tried. We tried so hard to stay in touch with Josie. We called every week. Drove to Albuquerque 3 times. Sloan always had an excuse. She was busy. She didn't want to see us. We should have pushed harder. We should have fought. We should have. Don't do that. Not now. There'll be time for guilt later. Right now, Josie needs her grandparents in that courtroom tomorrow morning. Can you make it? Holt's already putting on his boots. We'll drive through the night. Phoenix to Albuquerque. 5 hours. There was a pause. Then Lorraine's voice clearer now, steadier. The voice of a woman who had found something to do with 2 years of helpless rage. Ren, thank you. Thank you for not giving up on her. I gave up once. Not again. The night crawled forward, each hour longer than the last. Around 3 in the morning, Josie woke screaming. Ren was beside her in a heartbeat. Hey, you're okay, you're safe, I'm right here, I had a dream. About my mom. She was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear her. She was standing at the top of the stairs and she was trying to warn me, but no sound came out. Rena moved close, checked the monitors, adjusted the blanket. That's your mind processing, honey. It's normal after trauma. I miss her. I know. He told me she left because she didn't love me anymore. He said she was a drunk who drove into a tree because she didn't care about anyone but herself. But that's not true, is it? Ren's voice hardened. No, that's a lie. Your mother loved you more than anything on this earth. She died trying to protect you. Don't let him take that from you. How do you know? Because your grandmother just told me. Shelby called her that night. Scared. Trying to get you out. She was planning to bring you to your grandparents in Phoenix. She wasn't running away from you, Josie. She was trying to run towards safety. For both of you. Fresh tears. Different tears. Grief and relief tangled together like roots under soil. My grandparents. I haven't seen them in 2 years. Garrett said they didn't want me. Another lie. They called every week. Drove to Albuquerque 3 times. He turned them away every time. Told Josie the same thing he told them. That the other side didn't care. They're driving here right now. They'll be at the hearing tomorrow. The look on Josie's face nearly broke Ren in half. Hope. Pure, terrified, desperate hope on the face of a child who had been taught that hope was a trap. Can I see them? Before court. First thing in the morning. I promise. Josie lay back down. Exhaustion won. She slept. Ren didn't. By 5 in the morning, the sky was beginning to lighten, gray at the edges, the desert reluctant to let go of the dark. Colton arrived at the hospital looking like he hadn't slept either. Suit pressed, briefcase packed, eyes sharp. He found Ren in the hallway. I need to prepare you. Whitfield is good. He's going to come at you hard. Your finances, your living situation, your connection to Josie. He's going to make you look like an unfit guardian. And Ren, I need you to be honest with me. Can you answer his questions without losing your temper? I've been shot at by Taliban fighters. I can handle a lawyer, different kind of shooting. He's going to aim at your heart, not your head. He's going to make you feel like you failed. Because you did fail for 16 years, and he's going to use that. Ren said nothing. There's more. Whitfield filed a 40-page motion this morning. Character attack. He's compiled criminal records of Iron Shepherd's members. Bar fights, traffic violations. He's got photographs of tattoos. He's painting us as a criminal motorcycle gang. And he's painting you as the leader of it. No health insurance, no stable income, $3,000 in savings in a 1-bedroom apartment above a garage. That's what I have. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not asking you to lie. I'm asking you to be ready for how it's going to feel when Whitfield turns it into a weapon. At 6:30, Dr. Warren signed the discharge papers. Against medical advice, but the legal machinery was moving, and Josie needed to be at the courthouse. Lorraine and Holt Caldwell arrived at 7. They looked like they'd driven 5 hours through the dark, fueled by nothing but black coffee and grief. Lorraine was in her 60s, silver hair, eyes that had been crying and were done now, hands that wanted to hold something. Holt was older, weathered, former Army like his son. He walked into the hospital room and saw Josie, and his entire face collapsed. Grandpa. He crossed the room, put his hand on her head. Gentle. The way you touch something precious and broken. Your dad would be so proud of you, sweetheart. I miss him. Every day, darling, every single day. Lorraine pulled a bag from her shoulder, opened it, held up a simple blue dress. I brought something for you, something of your mother's, from when she was about your age. Josie's hands trembled as she took it. She changed in the bathroom with Lorraine's help. When she came out, she looked in the mirror and went very still. I look like her. Lorraine's voice broke. You look exactly like her. She's with you today, baby. She's with you every step. At 8 o'clock, they moved. Ren carried Josie down the hallway, not because Josie couldn't walk, but because walking hurt with 3 broken ribs, and because sometimes what a person needs more than anything is to be carried by someone strong enough to bear the weight. The lobby was packed, not just Iron Shepherds, hospital staff on their breaks, visitors who'd heard the story. Even Pemberton standing by the main door with his security team clearing a path. Ren stepped outside into the morning light and saw 2 things simultaneously. 40 Iron Shepherd's motorcycles lined up in escort formation, engines, idling riders mounted and ready. And across the parking lot, Garrett Sloan. 20 cops in uniform standing behind him, arms crossed, faces hard. A wall of blue between the hospital and the street. Morrison's eyes locked on Ren, on Josie in her arms, his face contorted with rage. Keep walking, Ren said to the group behind her. They moved forward. Sloan stepped into their path. That's my daughter you're carrying. She's not yours. I said, put her down. Colton held up a document. Emergency Custody Authorization Officer Sloan, signed by Judge Beckett's clerk at midnight. We have legal standing. You don't. One of Sloan's cops stepped forward. Young officer. Nervous. Ma'am, you need to return the child. Read the document, Officer Colton said. Read it carefully. Then tell me whose side the law is on this morning. The cop took the paper. Read it, looked at Sloan. Something shifted in his expression. Sir, they are clear. We can't stop them. Sloan's face went dark. An older cop behind him, sergeant stripes on his sleeve, stepped forward. Garrett, this isn't the place. Let the judge handle it. You're making this worse. Sloan looked at the sergeant, then at the cameras. 3 news vans had appeared overnight. Reporters with microphones and cameramen positioning for shots. The whole world was watching. You're done, Bridger. You and your gang. Done. Wren looked at him. Josie's arms were around her neck. The girl was trembling. We'll see. They made it to the vehicles. Loaded Josie into Colton's car. Lorraine and Holt climbed in beside her. The convoy formed. 40 bikes. Tight escort. The drive to the courthouse took 12 minutes. By the time they arrived, the steps were crowded. Reporters, supporters, onlookers who had seen the story trending on social media, and cops. More cops than Wren had ever seen outside of a police convention. They walked up the courthouse steps. The Iron Shepherds formed 2 lines, an honor guard. 40 riders standing at attention as Josie passed between them. Cutter saluted first, then Boone, then Red. One by one, every rider raised a hand. Josie looked up at Wren. Why are they doing that? Because you're family, and family honors family. They entered the courthouse. Security waved them through. Up the elevator, 3rd floor, family court, Department 7, Judge Lorraine Beckett presiding. The courtroom was already full. Colton guided them to the plaintiff's armorable. Wren sat beside Josie, Lorraine and Holt behind them. Renna slipped into the gallery. Across the aisle, Garrett Sloan sat with his legal team. Robert Whitfield, lead attorney, silver hair, tailored suit, the kind of confidence that comes from winning cases that should have been lost. He leaned across the aisle to Ms. Bridger. Robert Whitfield. Nothing personal, just doing my job. Your job is defending a man who beats children. Whitfield's smile didn't flicker. Alleged. Let's let the judge decide. The bailiff stood. All rise. The Honorable Judge Lorraine Beckett presiding. Everyone stood. The judge entered. 60 years old, reading glasses, sharp eyes that missed nothing and forgave less. She sat, opened a folder. Be seated. Case number JV2-254471. Emergency petition for guardianship. Bridger versus Sloan. Mr. Wellington. She meant Colton. He stood. Ashford, Your Honor. Colton Ashford for the petitioner, and Mr. Whitfield for the respondent. That's correct, Your Honor. Judge Beckett looked at Josie. Her expression shifted slightly, something human surfacing beneath the judicial mask. Young lady, what's your name? Josie's voice was barely audible. Josie Caldwell. How old are you? 14. I'll be 15 in August. Do you understand why you're here today? Because I told them what he did to me. Beckett nodded slowly. We're going to talk for a while. Ask some questions. I need you to be honest with me. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. That's all I ask, Mr. Ashford, call your first witness. The petitioner calls Marlene Bridger. Wren stood, walked to the witness stand. The bailiff held out a Bible. She placed her hand on it and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Her hand was steady. Her heart was not. Colton approached. State your full name for the record. Marlene K. Bridger. What is your relationship to Josie Caldwell? I served with her father, Tanner Caldwell, in Afghanistan. I was a combat medic attached to his unit in Helmand Province. Before he died, he made me promise to watch over his wife and daughter. I'm Josie's godmother. And did you maintain contact with Josie after Tanner's death? Yes, for years. I sent money every month, called weekly, visited on birthdays and holidays. I was part of Josie's life from the day she was born until about 2 years ago. What happened 2 years ago? Josie's mother, Shelby, died. After the funeral, Garrett Sloan made it clear I was no longer welcome. He stopped returning my calls, wouldn't let me visit, eventually changed the phone number. I tried for months, then I stopped trying. That is the biggest regret of my life. What brought you back? A phone call at 2:47 in the morning. A social worker told me Josie was in the hospital with multiple injuries. I knew in that moment that I had failed the promise I made to a dying man, and I decided to make it right. What did you observe when you arrived at the hospital? A 14-year-old girl with 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and contusions covering her back and shoulders. She was terrified. She told me her stepfather had done it. and she told me he had killed her mother. The courtroom erupted, whispers and gasps spreading like fire through dry grass. Beckett struck her gavel twice. Order. Ms. Bridger, that is a very serious allegation. Do you have evidence? I have Josie's eyewitness testimony. I have investigators examining the vehicle involved in Shelby Caldwell's death. And I have Josie's grandmother who received a phone call from Shelby on the night she died expressing fear for her life. Whitfield rose. Objection, Your Honor. Shelby Caldwell's death was fully investigated and ruled accidental. Counsel is throwing baseless allegations to prejudice the court. Whitfield barely paused. Shelby Caldwell's death was fully investigated and ruled accidental. Counsel is throwing baseless allegations to prejudice the court. Mr. Whitfield, sit down. I'll decide what's baseless. Mr. Ashford, continue, but I want evidence, not supposition. No further questions, Your Honor. Whitfield stood, approached the witness stand with the measured pace of a man who enjoyed what he was about to do. Miss Bridger, you said you're Josie's godmother. Is that a legal designation or a personal title? Personal, Tanner asked me before his last deployment. There's no formal paperwork, so legally you're a family friend. Nothing more. I'm the person her father trusted with her life. Her father who died 16 years ago. Yes. And in those 14 years, how many times did you actually see Josie? 20, maybe 30. 30 times in 16 years. Less than twice a year. And you stopped visiting entirely 2 years ago. Sloan cut me off. Or perhaps you simply moved on. Perhaps life got in the way. Perhaps a promise made in a war zone felt less urgent in the comfort of civilian life. Objection, Colton said. Argumentative. Sustained. Whitfield shifted tactics with the smooth efficiency of a man changing gears. Ms. Bridger, you're the president of a motorcycle organization called the Iron Shepherds. Yes. And how would you describe this organization? A veteran service group. People who serve their country and understand loyalty and community. Do any of your members have criminal records? Wren hesitated. Some. Minor things, traffic violations, a few altercations. A few altercations. You mean bar fights, assaults, no felonies, no violence against women or children, not ever. But criminal records nonetheless. And you thought bringing 97 people with this background to the hospital was an appropriate response to a custody concern. They're good people, are they? Or are they an intimidation force? Your personal army used to frighten hospital staff and obstruct law enforcement. We didn't intimidate anyone. We followed every rule, every instruction. Ms. Bridger, isn't it true that you run a small garage out of your apartment in Tucson? I rebuild cars and motorcycles. It's my livelihood. What's your annual income? It varies. Approximately $40,000, some years more, some years less. Do you have health insurance? No. Retirement savings? No. How much do you have in the bank right now? About $3,000. $3,000. And your home. A one-bedroom apartment above my garage. A one-bedroom apartment above a garage. No insurance, no savings, unstable income. And you believe you can provide for a 14-year-old girl in this environment. I'll make it work. Will you? Whitfield's voice sharpened. When is Josie's birthday? Wren's stomach dropped. She knew it was August. She could see the month in her memory like a road sign. But the date, the specific date, it was there somewhere, buried under 16 years and 1,000 other failures. August, what day? Silence. The worst silence of Wren's life. The silence of a promise breaking open in front of everyone who mattered. I don't remember the exact date, August 15th. What's her favorite color? Purple. Her favorite food? More silence following. Ms. Bridger. You don't know this girl. You knew her father. That is not the same thing. Wren's voice dropped low. I know she's not safe with Sloan. Based on what? Her word. She's a traumatized child who lost her mother 2 years ago. Children in crisis act out. They misremember events. They assign blame. That's not malice, it's psychology. She didn't make this up. How do you know? You weren't there. You haven't been there for years. You don't know her birthday. You don't know her favorite food. You can barely describe her daily life. And yet you want this court to uproot her from the only home she's known and place her with a virtual stranger. I'm not a stranger. I'm the person her father trusted. Her father trusted you 16 years ago, Miss Bridger. What have you done to earn that trust since? No answer. Because there was no answer. Because the truth was a blade, and Whitfield knew exactly where to place it. No further questions. Wren stepped down. Her legs carried her back to the plaintiff's table. She sat beside Josie. Her hands were shaking for the first time in years. Not from fear, from shame. Josie leaned over, whispered so quietly only Wren could hear. It's okay. I don't remember my birthday either sometimes. Wren almost broke, almost. But she held it, because the girl needed her to hold it. Colton stood. The petitioner calls Josie Caldwell. Josie's face went white. She stood slowly. Her legs shook. Lorraine squeezed her hand before letting go. You can do this, sweetheart, she whispered. Your mother was brave. You're her daughter. Josie walked to the witness stand the way a person walks towards something they know will hurt. The bailiff held out the Bible. Her hand trembled as she placed it on top. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Judge Beckett leaned forward. Josie, I know this is difficult. Take your time. If you need a break, say so. Okay. Colton approached. Josie, can you tell the court what happened 2 nights ago? He came home late. He'd been drinking. I could smell it on him. He gets mean when he drinks. What happened next? He asked where dinner was. I told him I'd made spaghetti, but it was cold because he was 3 hours late. He said I was disrespectful, that I talked back too much. He said I was just like my mother. Her hands twisted in her lap. That's when I told him to stop talking about her. And he grabbed my arm, twisted it behind my back, said I needed to learn respect. I tried to pull away, and he shoved me into the kitchen table. I heard the crack, my ribs. Colton let the words settle. What happened after you fell? I couldn't breathe. I was crying. He stood over me and said if I told anyone, he'd say I fell down the stairs. That no one would believe me because he was a cop and I was just a kid. Then he left, went to his room. I lay on the floor for 2 hours before I could move enough to call 911 myself. You called 911 yourself. He didn't call for help. No, he didn't care if I died. Has Garrett Sloan hurt you before that night? Yes, a lot, since my mom died. He slapped me for getting a B on a test. Locked me in my room for a whole day because I asked to see my grandparents. Broke my phone when he found out I tried to call Aunt Wren. And he told me every day that I was worthless. That my mom left because of me, that I ruined his life. Josie, you told Ms. Bridger something about your mother, about the night she died. Whitfield stood. Objection. Beyond the scope of this hearing, Shelby Caldwell's death has been investigated and closed. Judge Beckett held up a hand. I'll allow it. But Josie, I need you to tell me only what you saw with your own eyes. Not what you think happened, not what someone told you, what you actually witnessed. Josie nodded, took a breath that cost her 3 broken ribs worth of pain. The night my mom died, they were fighting. I was upstairs in my room. I could hear them screaming. Mom found bank statements, accounts she didn't know about, hundreds of thousands of dollars. She told him she was taking me and leaving. He told her she wasn't going anywhere. Josie's voice steadied. The way a voice steadies when it has rehearsed the truth in silence for 2 years and is finally allowed to speak it aloud. I opened my bedroom door. I could see the top of the stairs. Mom was trying to walk away. He grabbed her arm. She pulled free, and he pushed her. She fell down the whole staircase. I ran down. She wasn't moving. There was blood coming from her head. I screamed at him to call 911. The courtroom was silent, not quiet, silent, the kind of silence that has weight. He came down the stairs, checked her pulse. Then he looked at me and said, she's drunk. Fell down the stairs. That's what happened. You understand? I said we needed to call an ambulance. He said no. He picked her up, carried her to the garage, put her in the car, started the engine. I tried to stop him, but he locked me in the house. He was gone about an hour. When he came back, he was crying. He said there had been an accident, that Mom crashed into a tree, that she was gone. Why didn't you tell anyone what you saw? I did tell. I told the police officers who came to the house, but Garrett was right there. He kept saying I was confused, that I was traumatized, that I didn't know what I was saying. The officers believed him. He was one of them. Why didn't you tell your grandparents? He wouldn't let me talk to them. He said if I ever told anyone what really happened, he'd make sure I ended up in foster care. That no one would believe me because he was a bum and I was just a kid. That I'd lose everyone. Did you believe him? Yes, I was 12. I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. Colton paused, then asked the only question that mattered. Josie, do you feel safe with Garrett Sloan? No. Do you want to go back to his house? Josie looked at the judge, then at Sloan, then back at the judge. No, please. Please don't make me go back. No further questions, Your Honor. Whitfield stood. His expression was different now. The friendly mask stripped. Underneath was something harder and sharper. Josie, you said you were at the top of the stairs, behind your bedroom door, in the dark, looking through a crack, at night. And from this vantage point, you're certain you saw your stepfather push your mother. I saw enough. Enough. You were 12 years old, terrified in the dark, looking through a partially open door. Is it possible your memory has changed over 2 years? That your mind filled in details that weren't there? He pushed her. I saw it. Whitfield paced. The night you were injured, you said you told him dinner was cold because he was late. That's talking back, isn't it? Provoking him. I was explaining. And when he asked for respect, you refused. Because he was being unfair. Fair or not, he's the parent. You're the child. Objection, Colton said. Counsel is blaming the victim. Your Honor, I'm establishing context. Tread carefully, Mr. Whitfield. Josie, if Garrett Sloan is truly as dangerous as you claim, why didn't you run away? You're 14. You could have left, gone to a neighbor, called a teacher. Why did you stay? Josie's voice broke open. Not cracked, broke. The way ice breaks on a river in spring. All at once, everything underneath rushing to the surface because I was scared. Because he told me no one would believe me. Because I didn't want to lose the only home I had left. Because every adult in my life had either died or disappeared or told me I was lying. Because I'm just a kid, and I didn't know what else to do. The courtroom held its breath. Whitfield nodded, slowly. No further questions. Josie stepped down. She was shaking so violently she could barely walk. Lorraine met her halfway, caught her, held her, guided her back to her seat. Josie pressed her face into her grandmother's shoulder and wept. Colton stood. The petitioner calls Lorraine Caldwell. Lorraine took the stand, composed herself with the rigid discipline of a woman who had been falling apart in private for 2 years and was not going to do it in public now. Mrs. Caldwell, what is your relationship to Josie? I'm her grandmother. Tanner Caldwell was my son. When was the last time you saw Josie before yesterday? 2 years ago, at Shelby's funeral. Why so long? Garrett Sloan would not allow us to see her. We called every week. He always had an excuse. We drove from Phoenix to Albuquerque 3 times. He wouldn't let us in the house. He told us Josie didn't want to see us. He told Josie we didn't want to see her. He lied to both sides, kept us apart. Did Josie ever try to contact you? Once, about 6 months after Shelby died. She called from a friend's phone, said she missed us. We were making arrangements for her to visit when Garrett called back. Furious, said we were interfering, that we needed to respect his boundaries. After that, the call stopped completely. Mrs. Caldwell, did you ever suspect Josie was being abused? Lorraine's jaw tightened. I suspected something was wrong, but Garrett was a police officer. Everyone spoke well of him. I told myself it was grief, that Josie was pulling away because of her mother's death. I should have pushed harder. I should have fought. She stopped, collected herself. I should have protected her. Mrs. Caldwell, you mentioned a phone call from your daughter Shelby on the night she died. Whitfield stood. Objection? Hearsay. Your Honor, Colton said. This is a statement made by the deceased shortly before her death. It's admissible under the excited utterance exception and as a statement of existing mental state. Judge Beckett considered. I'll allow it. But Mrs. Caldwell, I need you to tell me exactly what Shelby said. Her words, not your interpretation. Lorraine straightened in the chair. Shelby called me at approximately 8:43 in the evening. She was upset, speaking fast. She said, Mom, I found bank accounts I didn't know about. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. When I confronted Garrett, he got angry. Really angry. I'm scared. Can Josie come stay with you and Dad? I told her to call the police. And she said, Lorraine's voice dropped to barely a whisper, but every person in that courtroom heard it. He is the police. The room erupted, not with gasps this time, with something deeper, the sound a room makes when the floor drops out from under it. Sloan was on his feet. That's a lie. She never said that. This is character assassination. This is. Judge Beckett's gavel came down like a gunshot. Officer Sloan, sit down. She's making it up. My wife never. Sit down. One more outburst and I will hold you in contempt. Do you understand me? Whitfield grabbed Sloan's arm, pulled him into his seat, whispered urgently. Sloan's face was crimson, veins standing in his neck, his hands gripping the table edge until his knuckles went white. Beckett looked at Lorraine. Mrs. Caldwell, do you have phone records to verify this call? Yes, Your Honor, I brought them. Holt stood, walked forward with a folder, handed it to the bailiff. The bailiff passed it to the judge. Beckett examined the documents. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes stayed on the paper for a long time. This shows a 7-minute call from Shelby Caldwell's cell phone to your cell phone at 8:43 p.m. on the night of her death. She looked at Whitfield. Your client's official statement says Shelby was intoxicated that evening. Heavily intoxicated, is that correct? That's correct, Your Honor. In my experience, Mr. Whitfield, heavily intoxicated people do not make coherent 7-minute phone calls detailing financial fraud and expressing specific fears for their safety. Whitfield's composure cracked for the first time. Just a hairline fracture. But it was there. Your Honor, we don't know the content of that call. Mrs. Caldwell's testimony is her interpretation. Her interpretation is all we have, since Shelby Caldwell is dead. Continue, Mr. Ashford. Mrs. Caldwell, if Josie were placed in Miss Bridger's custody, would you support that arrangement? Absolutely. Wren is a good woman. Tanner trusted her with his life. We trust her with Josie's. No further questions. Whitfield declined to cross-examine. A rare strategic retreat, probably because he knew that attacking a grieving grandmother on camera would cost him more than whatever he might gain. Judge Beckett checked the clock on the wall. It's 11:45. We'll break for lunch. Back at 1 o'clock. Mr. Ashford, you mentioned evidence regarding Shelby Caldwell's vehicle. I expect that witness ready when we resume. Yes, Your Honor. Court is in recess. Everyone stood. Sloan stormed out with his legal team. The door slammed behind him hard enough to echo. Wren sat in the plaintiff's chair. Her body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Whitfield had torn her apart on the stand, made her look like exactly what she feared she was. A woman who had broken a promise and was trying to buy forgiveness with a dramatic gesture 16 years too late. But Josie had been magnificent, terrified and shaking and barely able to speak above a whisper. But she had told the truth with a clarity that no cross-examination could erase. And Lorraine's testimony had landed like a bomb. He is the police. 5 words. That was all it took to change the temperature of the entire courtroom. Colton found her in the hallway. How are you holding up? I've been better. How bad was my testimony? It wasn't great. Whitfield did what Whitfield does. But Wren Josie's testimony was devastating. And Lorraine's phone records are hard to argue away. We're still in this. We need Sawyer. If he doesn't have something on that car, we might not have enough. I know. She pulled out her phone. Called Sawyer. Talk to me. I'm 30 minutes out. And Wren, yeah, I found something. Something big. How big? Big enough to change everything. Get here. Fast. You testify at 1 o'clock. She hung up. Looked at Colton. Sawyer's coming. He found something. What? He didn't say, but he said it was big enough to change everything. If it proves Shelby's death wasn't an accident, this case flips. Sloan goes from custody respondent to murder suspect. That's what I'm counting on. They walked to the conference room where Josie sat with her grandparents. Rena was there making sure the girl ate something. A sandwich sat untouched on a napkin. I'm not hungry. You need to eat, Rena said. Court isn't over. Ren knelt beside her. You were incredible in there, Josie. You were brave. Your dad would be proud. Josie looked at her. Those eyes, Tanner's eyes. What happens now? Now we wait for one more witness, someone who's been examining your mom's car. If he found what I think he found, Garrett Sloan is never going to hurt anyone again. Josie's hand found Ren's, held tight, and if he didn't find anything. Then we fight with what we have, and we keep fighting. However long it takes, because you are never going back to that house. Not as long as I'm breathing. Josie looked at her grandmother, at her grandfather, at Rena, at the iron shepherds visible through the conference room window standing in the courthouse hallway like sentinels carved from leather and loyalty. Then she looked back at Ren. I believe you. 3 words, small and quiet, and worth more than anything Ren had ever been given in her entire life. Outside the courthouse, the sun climbed toward noon. Somewhere on the highway, Sawyer was driving fast. In a conference room, a girl ate half a sandwich because the people around her refused to let her give up. In the courtroom, a judge reviewed phone records and medical reports and thought about what justice looked like when the system designed to provide it was the same system that had failed. And in the parking lot, 97 motorcycles waited. Silent, patient, ready for whatever came next. Because promises are not words, they are actions. And the hardest part of keeping a promise is not the grand gesture. It is the long wait between the gesture and the moment when it finally matters. 1 o'clock was coming, and with it, the truth. At 12:53, 7 minutes before court resumed, Sawyer walked through the courthouse doors. He looked like a man who had spent the night in a junkyard because that is exactly what he had done. Grease under his fingernails, dust on his boots, a laptop bag over one shoulder and a manila folder thick with photographs in his left hand. His eyes were bloodshot but sharp, the eyes of a man carrying something heavy and important and ready to set it down in front of the right people. Ren met him in the hallway outside Department 7. Tell me. Sawyer opened the folder, pulled out a photograph, 8 by 10, high resolution, a close-up of a brake line on a 2013 Honda Accord. Shelby Caldwell's car has been sitting in the Albuquerque Police impound lot for 2 years. Nobody touched it after the accident investigation closed. It was scheduled for auction next month. I got access by telling the lot supervisor I was doing an independent safety inspection for an insurance claim. He didn't ask many questions. And Sawyer pointed to a section of the brake line in the photograph. The image was clear. Even someone with no mechanical knowledge could see it. A clean cut, not a tear, not a rupture from wear or age or road damage. A deliberate incision made with a sharp blade halfway through the hydraulic line. Someone cut the brake line partially. Not all the way through, just enough that under normal driving conditions the hydraulic fluid would leak out gradually. The driver wouldn't notice anything wrong for the first few miles. Brakes would feel soft, then softer, then nothing. By the time she hit any real speed or needed to stop suddenly, there'd be zero braking power. At highway speed, that's fatal. Colton leaned in, studied the photograph. You can prove this was deliberate. Not wear and tear, not road debris. Sawyer pulled out 3 more photographs. Different angles. Magnified. The cut is too clean, too precise. There's no fraying at the edges which you'd see with a tear from vibration or impact. No discoloration pattern consistent with gradual corrosion failure. This was done with a blade, a utility knife or a box cutter. And see this, he pointed to a faint ring of discoloration around the cut. That's oxidation, corrosion that formed after the cut was made. Based on the environmental conditions in Albuquerque and the rate of oxidation on exposed hydraulic steel, I'd estimate this cut was made 4 to 6 hours before the crash. Not days, not weeks, hours. Ren stared at the photographs. The images were sharp and damning, and they told a story that was 2 years old and had been waiting in a junkyard for someone to come and read it. Someone cut that line knowing Shelby would drive that night. That's what the evidence suggests. Whoever did this knew her routine, knew when she'd be driving, knew the route. 4 to 6 hours means it was done sometime in the afternoon or early evening. Before the fight, before the phone call to Lorraine, before any of it. Colton's face was grim, meaning it was premeditated. Sloan didn't kill her in a moment of rage. He planned it, cut the brake line earlier in the day, then picked a fight that evening. Pushed her down the stairs when she tried to leave. When that didn't kill her, he put her in a car he'd already sabotaged and let physics finish the job. Ren's hands were steady. Her voice was not. Can you testify to all of this? Under oath, in front of a judge. I've been a certified mechanic for 22 years. I've done accident reconstruction work for insurance companies and law firms across 3 states. I know what accidental brake failure looks like, and I know what sabotage looks like. This is sabotage, and I'll say that under oath to anyone who asks. Colton checked his watch. 7 minutes. Let's go. They walked into the courtroom. The gallery was more crowded than before. Word had spread during the lunch recess. This was no longer just a custody hearing. This was a murder case breaking open in real time. Reporters filled the back rows. Members of the public who had seen the social media coverage pressed against the gallery railing. Iron Shepherd sat among them, silent and watchful. Judge Beckett took her seat. Her expression was unreadable. Mr. Ashford, I understand you have new evidence and a witness regarding Shelby Caldwell's death. Yes, Your Honor. The petitioner calls Sawyer McCrae. Sawyer took the stand, swore the oath, sat down with the posture of a man who was comfortable with tools and truth and uncomfortable with everything else. Colton approached. Mr. McCrae, please state your profession and qualifications for the court. I'm a certified automotive mechanic. 22 years of experience. I hold ASE Master Technician certification, and I've completed specialized training in accident reconstruction and vehicle forensics. I've provided expert testimony in 14 cases across Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada involving vehicle failure analysis. Were you asked to examine a vehicle related to this case? Yes. Shelby Caldwell's 2013 Honda Accord, impound lot number 743 at the Albuquerque Police Department Vehicle Storage Facility. What did you find? Sawyer opened his laptop, turned the screen toward the judge. Colton handed printed copies of the photographs to the bailiff, who passed them to Beckett. The brake line on the driver's side front circuit had been deliberately cut, partially severed with a sharp blade. The cut is clean and precise. There is no fraying, no tearing, no evidence of gradual deterioration. This was not mechanical failure. This was not wear and tear. This was intentional sabotage. The courtroom contracted. Every person in it leaned forward by some fraction of an inch. The air itself seemed to thicken. In your professional opinion, what would happen to a vehicle with this type of damage to the brake line? Under normal city driving, the driver might not notice anything for the first several miles. Brake pedal would feel slightly soft, easy to dismiss. But as hydraulic fluid leaked through the severed line, braking pressure would decrease progressively. At highway speed, within approximately 5 to 8 miles, the brakes would fail completely. The driver would have no ability to stop the vehicle. Could this damage have been caused by normal wear? Road debris, an accident prior to the crash? No, the cut is too clean, too precise. Road debris creates jagged tears with irregular edges. Wear creates thinning and eventual rupture with visible corrosion patterns. This is a straight incision made by a blade. I've examined hundreds of brake line failures in my career. I know the difference. How long before the crash was this cut made? Based on the oxidation pattern around the cut, the environmental conditions at the impound lot, and the rate of corrosion on exposed hydraulic steel, I estimate the cut was made approximately 4 to 6 hours before the crash occurred. Colton let that settle. 4 to 6 hours, meaning the sabotage was done well in advance. This was not an impulsive act. Objection. Whitfield was on his feet. Counsel is testifying, drawing conclusions that are beyond the scope of the witness's expertise. The witness is a certified accident reconstruction expert with 22 years of experience, Your Honor. His conclusions are well within his professional qualifications. Judge Beckett looked at the photographs for a long moment. Overruled. Continue. No further questions, Your Honor. Whitfield stood. His composure was intact but thinner now, the polish starting to show the wood beneath. Mr. McCrae, you said the brake line was cut. Can you determine who cut it? No. Can you place my client anywhere near that vehicle on the day of the accident? Number. So for all anyone in this courtroom knows, someone else could have tampered with that vehicle. A stranger, an enemy, someone with a grudge against Shelby Caldwell. It's theoretically possible. Theoretically possible. Whitfield repeated the words slowly, as if savoring them. So you cannot say with any certainty that Garrett Sloan was responsible for this damage. I can say the damage was deliberate. I can say it was done hours before the crash. And I can say that whoever did it knew Shelby Caldwell would be driving that vehicle that evening. But you cannot name the person who did it. No, that's not my job. My job is to analyze the vehicle. And the vehicle tells me someone wanted Shelby Caldwell dead. Whitfield stiffened. Moved to strike. The witness is speculating about intent. Judge Beckett shook her head. The witness is stating a professional conclusion based on physical evidence. It stands. Anything else, Mr. Whitfield? No further questions. Sawyer stepped down, walked back to the gallery, sat beside Boone, who clapped him once on the shoulder without a word. Judge Beckett removed her reading glasses, set them on the bench, folded her hands. The courtroom waited. This is a great deal of information to process, Mr. Ashford. Have you contacted law enforcement about this new evidence? We're prepared to do so immediately, Your Honor. We will be filing a formal request with the New Mexico State Police to reopen the investigation into Shelby Caldwell's death. See that you do. Because if what Mr. McCrae has testified to is accurate, we are talking about something far more serious than a custody dispute. We are talking about homicide. She turned her gaze to Garrett Sloan, the full weight of the bench behind her eyes. Officer Sloan, stand. He stood. His face had lost all color. The confidence that had carried him into the courtroom that morning was gone. In its place was something raw and cornered. Officer Sloan, I want to be very clear about what I'm about to say. I am not a criminal court. I do not have jurisdiction to charge you with murder. That is for the district attorney and a grand jury to determine. But I do have jurisdiction over the safety and welfare of Josie Caldwell. And based on the testimony I have heard today, the medical evidence of abuse, the eyewitness account of domestic violence, the phone records indicating your wife feared for her life on the night she died, and the expert testimony suggesting her vehicle was deliberately sabotaged, I cannot in good conscience return this child to your care. Your Honor, I didn't. I am not finished. The courtroom was silent, absolutely silent. The kind of silence that exists in the center of a storm. Effective immediately, I am granting temporary emergency custody of Josie Caldwell to Marlene Bridger. You are prohibited from any contact with Josie except through court-approved, supervised visitation, which I am not inclined to grant at this time. A full custody hearing will be scheduled within 30 days. Until then, Josie remains with Ms. Bridger. The gavel came down. A single strike, final as a door closing. Josie broke, not apart, open. The dam she had built over 2 years of silence and fear and loneliness cracked, and the tears came flooding through. But these were different tears. These were the tears of a girl who had been drowning and finally felt her head break the surface. Lorraine wrapped her arms around Josie. Holt put his hand on both their heads, a family reassembling itself from the wreckage. Wren sat very still. Her hands were in her lap. Her eyes were closed. She was breathing in a way that suggested she had not been breathing properly for a very long time and was only now remembering how. Then Josie was in her arms, small and shaking and holding on with a strength that belied every broken bone in her body. I don't have to go back. I don't have to go back. No, kiddo, you're coming home with me. You're safe. Across the aisle, Sloan leaned toward Wren. His lawyers were gathering papers. His face was the face of a man watching his entire constructed life collapse in real time. This isn't over, he hissed. Wren looked at him, calm, steady, the way you look at something dangerous that can no longer reach you. Yes, it is. Sloan left. His lawyers followed. The door closed behind them with a sound that felt permanent. Outside the courthouse, the Iron Shepherds were waiting. When Josie appeared at the top of the steps, they erupted. Not with shouts or cheers, with something quieter and more powerful. Applause, steady and sustained, and coming from the hands of 97 people who had ridden through the night and waited through the day for this moment. Cutter approached Josie. In his hands, a small package wrapped in brown paper. He held it out with the careful reverence of a man presenting something sacred. This is for you, young lady. Josie unwrapped it. Inside was a leather jacket, child-sized. On the back, a patch, Iron Shepherds. And below it, a single word stitched in silver thread. Family. You're one of us now, Cutter said. His voice was rough with 73 years of living and whatever was happening behind his eyes. Family takes care of family. That's not a slogan. That's a covenant. Josie held the jacket against her chest, looked at the patch, looked at Cutter, looked at the 97 riders standing in the afternoon sun. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for coming. Red stepped forward, his big frame casting a shadow across the courthouse steps. That's what we do, kid. Someone needs help. We show up. Josie put the jacket on. It fit like it had been made for her. Because it had. Cutter had called ahead during the lunch recess, had a leather worker in Albuquerque rush it, 73 years old and still thinking 2 moves ahead. Wren allowed herself one moment, one breath, 1 second where the weight on her shoulders lifted enough for her to feel something other than vigilance and guilt and determination. She looked at the sky, blue and vast and indifferent and beautiful. Then Boone was at her side, his voice low. "Wren, we got a problem." She came back to earth. "What?" Whisper just checked in. Sloan didn't go home after court. He went to his bank, withdrew $50,000 in cash. Wren's stomach dropped. He's running. That's what Whisper thinks. He also went to his house. 15 minutes inside. Came out with 2 bags. Wren's mind moved fast. If Sloan ran, he could disappear. New identity, new state, new country. And as long as he was free, Josie would never be truly safe. She would spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, waiting for a knock on the door or a shadow in the parking lot or a phone call in the middle of the night. She pulled out her phone, called Colton. Sloan withdrew 50,000 cash and packed bags. "He's going to run. I'll contact the DA's office. Request an emergency warrant. But Wren, it takes time. The wheels of justice grind slowly. We don't have time. If he crosses state lines, this gets complicated. If he makes it to Mexico, we lose him. What do you want me to do?" "Everything you can. Get that warrant, get the state police involved, and get Judge Beckett on the phone. She needs to know her defendant is about to flee." She hung up, looked at Boone. "Where's Josie?" "Inside with Lorraine and Holt. Rena's with them. Red's on the door. Get them to the Desert Star Hotel, room 412. Postcards. I want 8 riders on that room at all times. Nobody gets in or out without my approval." Boone nodded. "What about you? I need to make sure Sloan doesn't disappear." She didn't go after him herself. That was not the play. That was what the old Wren might have done. The Afghanistan Wren. The Wren who solved problems by running toward them. But this was not a war zone, and Garrett Sloan was not an insurgent, and the fastest way to lose everything she had just won was to do something reckless that gave Whitfield ammunition for an appeal. Instead, she called Whisper. "Where is he now?" "Heading east on I-40, just past mile marker 178. Black Dodge Charger, doing about 85. Driving erratic. Stay on him. Do not approach. Do not engage. Just track him and report every 5 minutes. Copy." Then she called the one person she had not expected to call, Pemberton, the hospital security chief who had 2 daughters of his own and who had stared down 2 fake cops with a forged warrant in the middle of the night. "Pemberton, it's Marlene Bridger. Ms. Bridger. How'd court go?" "We won custody, but Sloan's running. Withdrew 50,000 in cash, and he's heading east on I-40 right now. I need someone inside law enforcement I can trust. You know anyone in the state police who isn't in Sloan's pocket?" Pemberton was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "My brother-in-law, Sergeant Dwight Pemberton, state police. 30 years on the job. Cleanest cop I know. He's been hearing about this case all day on the news. He's furious. Can you get him on the phone? Give me 5 minutes?" 4 minutes later, Wren's phone rang, a voice she didn't know, deep, authoritative, the voice of a man who had spent 3 decades enforcing laws he actually believed in. "Ms. Bridger, Dwight Pemberton. My brother-in-law says you've got an officer fleeing jurisdiction. Garrett Sloan, Albuquerque PD, Judge Beckett just stripped his custody. We presented evidence of homicide and child abuse. He withdrew 50,000 in cash-packed bags, and he's currently heading east on A40. I have someone tracking him. You have a civilian following a potentially armed and desperate police officer. I have a very careful civilian maintaining distance and reporting his location every 5 minutes." A pause. "How far east?" "Last report was mile marker 178, but he could turn off at any exit. I'm dispatching units now. We'll set up at mile marker 165. That's a natural choke point. If he's still on I-40, we'll intercept. Sergeant, he's dangerous. He's already threatened Josie's life. He sent 2 officers with a forged warrant to the hospital last night to try to grab her. He's not thinking straight. Understood. We'll handle it. But Ms. Bridger, I need you and your people to stand down. No pursuit, no confrontation. Let us do our job. That's exactly what I'm asking you to do. She hung up, stood in the courthouse parking lot. The sun was angling west, long shadows stretching across the asphalt. The Iron Shepherds were loading up, bikes starting, support vehicles running. Wren didn't move. She had done everything she could do, called the right people, activated the right channels, put the wheels in motion. Now she had to trust that the system, the same system that had failed Shelby and failed Josie and failed every promise Wren had ever made, would work this time. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. Harder than Afghanistan, harder than riding 620 miles through the night, harder than sitting in a witness chair while Whitfield cut her open, standing still, waiting, trusting. She drove to the Desert Star Hotel, room 412. Josie was inside with Rain and Holt. Renna was checking vitals. Red stood outside the door like a mountain that had been placed there by geology and had no intention of moving. Inside, Josie was sitting on the bed. She'd eaten half a sandwich and drunk a glass of water. The color was returning to her face. Not much, but some. Aunt Wren, what's happening? Sloan left town after the hearing. The police are looking for him. Is he coming here? No, we have people watching. You're safe. Josie's eyes searched Wren's face. The girl had learned to read adults the way animals learn to read weather, looking for the storm behind the calm. You're worried. I'm careful. There's a difference. The hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. Wren sat in the room with Josie and tried to be present and calm and reassuring while her phone buzzed every 5 minutes with updates from Whisper. 5:15 p.m. He took exit 184, heading south on Route 41, desert roads. 5:22 p.m. He stopped. Dirt road off Route 41, just sitting in his car, engine running. 5:31 p.m. He's on the phone, animated, angry. 5:38 p.m. He's moving again. Back toward A40, heading west now. Wren's blood chilled, west. Back toward Albuquerque. She texted Whisper, stay on him. Do not lose him. Then she called Sergeant Pemberton. He turned around. He's heading west now, back toward Albuquerque. Pemberton's voice tightened. Understood. We're repositioning. Roadblock at mile marker 165 westbound. He won't get through. But Sloan never reached the roadblock. At 6:07 p.m. Wren's phone rang. Whisper's voice. Calm as always. But underneath the calm, something electric. Wren. He stopped again. He's parked outside a house in the Northeast Heights, residential neighborhood. He's been sitting in his car for 10 minutes. Whose house? I ran the address. It belongs to Officer Dale Kendrick. Albuquerque PD, same precinct as Sloan. He's meeting with a cop, an ally. That's what I thought. But Wren, he just got back in his car, and there's someone with him now, Kendrick. In uniform, they're driving together. Where? Toward downtown, toward the Desert Star Hotel district. Wren's heart stopped, then it restarted at twice the speed. She stood up from the chair. Josie looked at her. The girl could read the change in Wren's posture the way a deer reads the snap of a twig. What's wrong? Nothing. Stay here with your grandparents. Wren locked the door. She stepped into the hallway. Red was there. So were 2 other Iron Shepherds. She spoke quietly and quickly. Sloan is heading this way. He's got a cop with him, probably planning another fake warrant or some story about a new court order to get past us and grab Josie. Nobody gets through this door. Nobody. I don't care if they're wearing a badge. I don't care if they've got a piece of paper. Unless Colton Ashford personally verifies it by phone with the issuing court, that door stays locked. She pulled out her phone, dialed Colton. Sloan's heading to the hotel. He's got a cop with them. I need you to be ready. If anyone presents a document claiming authority to take Josie, I'm calling you to verify. If it's real, we comply. If it's fake, I'm recording everything and sending it to Sergeant Pemberton. I'm already in my car, 10 minutes away. Then she dialed Pemberton. Sloan is heading toward the Desert Star Hotel with Officer Dale Kendrick. I believe they're going to attempt to take Josie using false legal pretenses. I need state police units at this location. They're on the way, 15 minutes. We might not have 15 minutes. Then stall them. Keep it calm, keep it legal, and record everything. She hung up, looked at Red. Whatever happens, nobody touches anybody. No fists, no threats. We document. We delay. We stay between them and that door. Understood. Red nodded. His jaw was set. His eyes were clear. Understood. At 6:23 p.m., the elevator at the end of the fourth-floor hallway opened. Two men stepped out. Garrett Sloan in civilian clothes and Officer Dale Kendrick in full uniform. They walked toward room 412 with the stride of men who expected the path to be clear. It was not clear. Red stood in the center of the hallway. Two iron shepherds flanked him. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They simply existed in the space between Sloan and the door, immovable and implacable. Sloan stopped. Get out of the way. Red didn't respond. He looked at Sloan the way a cliff face looks at the ocean. Unmoved, unimpressed, patient. Kendrick stepped forward, held up a piece of paper. I have a court order requiring the immediate transfer of Josie Caldwell to Officer Sloan's custody. A new ruling from Judge Beckett, signed 30 minutes ago. Wren stepped out of the stairwell behind them, phone in hand, camera recording. She had come up the stairs while they were focused on the elevator. That's interesting, Officer Kendrick. Because I have Judge Beckett's clerk on the line right now. She didn't. Not yet. But she was dialing. Kendrick's face flickered. Sloan's didn't. Sloan looked at Wren with an expression that was beyond anger, beyond desperation. It was the face of a man who had run out of moves and knew it but couldn't stop playing. Wren's phone connected. This is Colton Ashford. I just spoke with Judge Beckett's chambers. There is no new order. No ruling has been issued since this afternoon's hearing. Whatever document Officer Kendrick is holding is fraudulent. Wren held the phone up so Sloan could hear. His face changed. She kept the camera pointed at both of them. Red and the two iron shepherds held their positions. Nobody moved. And then Josie's voice. Small, from behind the locked door of room 412, but clear enough to carry down the hallway. I'm not going with him. I'm never going with him again. Something broke in Sloan. Not dramatically, not with a shout or a lunge or a fist. It was quieter than that, more complete. The kind of breaking that happens deep inside a structure when the last supporting beam gives way and the whole thing begins its slow, inevitable collapse. Kendrick looked at Sloan, looked at the phone in Wren's hand, looked at the camera recording his face, looked at Red, who hadn't moved a single inch, and Kendrick made a decision. He lowered the paper. Took a step back. Garrett, we need to go. Sloan didn't move. Garrett, now. Sloan's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. She's my daughter, no, Wren said. She isn't, and she never was. You were supposed to protect her. You broke her instead. That's not fatherhood. That's cruelty. And it's over. Sloan stared at her. 10 seconds. 20. The hallway was silent except for the hum of the ice machine around the corner and the faint sound of Josie crying softly behind a locked door. Then Sloan turned, walked back to the elevator. Kendrick followed. The doors closed. They were gone. Wren exhaled. Her hands were shaking. The phone was still recording. She saved the video, forwarded it to Colton, to Sergeant Pemberton, and to Judith Pratt at CPS. Then she sent one more thing to Sergeant Pemberton, a file that Whisper had recorded 6 hours earlier. Whisper had been following Sloan since the lunch recess on Wren's orders. And when Sloan made his phone calls from that dirt road off Route 41, Whisper had been close enough, patient enough, and quiet enough to capture every word. The recording was 23 minutes long. In it, Garrett Sloan gave detailed instructions to Dale Kendrick on how to fabricate a court order, how to present it at the hotel, and how to physically remove Josie from the room if the bikers resisted. And in one passage that would be played in a courtroom many times in the coming months, Sloan said the following. If that girl testifies at a full hearing, we're all done, not just me. Everyone who looked the other way, everyone who signed off on Shelby's accident report without asking questions, everyone. So she either disappears or she shuts up. Permanently. I don't care which. Sergeant Dwight Pemberton received the recording at 6:41 p.m. By 7:15, he had a warrant. By 7:32, 4 state police cruisers converged on Garrett Sloan's residence. Sloan was in his living room, bags still packed by the front door, $50,000 in cash in a duffel on the kitchen table. The knock on the door was not from an iron shepherd. It was not from a biker or a mechanic or a retired firefighter. It was from Sergeant Carver, Sloan's own colleague, a man who had stood behind Sloan at the hospital. who had stood behind Sloan at the courthouse, who had worn the same uniform and carried the same badge and looked the other way for longer than he would ever be comfortable admitting. But not anymore. Carver opened the door after Sloan failed to answer. The handcuffs were standard issue. The words were simple. Garrett Sloan, you're under arrest, murder in the first degree, aggravated child abuse, making terroristic threats, conspiracy to commit kidnapping. You have the right to remain silent. Sloan looked at Carver. The betrayal in his eyes was almost convincing. If you didn't know what he had done, you're one of mine, Carver. You're supposed to have my back. Carver's face was stone. I had the law's back, same as always. You're the one who turned your back on it. They let him out, into a patrol car. Under the lights, in front of cameras that had been tipped off and were rolling by the time the first cruiser door opened. Wren was not there. She did not need to be. She was 4 miles away, sitting on the edge of a hotel bed, holding the hand of a 14-year-old girl who had stopped crying and started breathing. Colton called at 8 o'clock. It's done. Sloan's in custody. State police. Charges are first-degree murder for Shelby, aggravated child abuse, terroristic threats, conspiracy, and the DA is opening a separate investigation into financial fraud. Those hidden bank accounts Shelby found. Turns out Sloan was skimming from evidence lockers, selling confiscated narcotics, using the proceeds to fund accounts under aliases. He's looking at life without parole. Wren closed her eyes. Josie's safe, Josie's safe. She hung up, looked at the girl sitting beside her. It's over, kiddo. He's in jail. He's not getting out. Not for a very long time. Maybe not ever. Josie didn't speak for a while. She sat in the quiet of the hotel room with her grandparents beside her, and Renna standing by the window and Red still posted outside the door, and she let the words settle into her like rain into dry soil. Then she spoke. I keep waiting to wake up. You're not dreaming. I keep waiting for someone to tell me it was a mistake, that I have to go back. There is no going back. Not to that house, not to him, not ever. Josie looked at Wren with eyes that were too old for 14 and too young for everything they had witnessed. What happens now? Now we go to Tucson, we get you enrolled in school, we find a therapist, a good one. We figure out how to be a family, you and me and you and your grandparents, and Renna, and Cutter, and Red, and Boone, and 97 other people who will drop everything if you need them. What about my room? You said you had a 1-bedroom apartment. We'll figure it out. Might need a bigger place. Cutter's already volunteering to help with renovations. Red says he'll tutor you in English. Renna offered to do weekly check-ins, medical and otherwise. Why? Josie's voice cracked. Why would they do all that? They don't even know me. Because you're Tanner's daughter. Because you're Iron Shepherd's now. Because that's what family does. There was a knock at the door. Red's voice through the wood. Ren, someone here to see you. Ren opened the door. Standing in the hallway, uncomfortable and uncertain and holding a small leather jacket, was Wade. He looked at Ren, then passed her at Josie on the bed, then back at Ren. He held out the jacket. It was child-sized, brand new, an Iron Shepherd's patch on the back. He must have driven to Albuquerque after all. Must have been here for hours, waiting, watching from a distance, working up the courage to do what he should have done from the start. I was wrong, he said. His voice was rough, stripped of everything except honesty. You were right, and that girl in there deserved better than my cowardice. Ren took the jacket, looked at it, looked at Wade. She didn't say I told you so. She didn't say anything sharp or righteous or satisfying. She just nodded. Once. Come in, meet her. Wade walked into the room. He knelt beside the bed, held out his hand to Josie. My name's Wade. I ride with your Aunt Ren. I should have been here from the start. I'm sorry I wasn't. Josie shook his hand. It's okay. You're here now. Wade almost broke. Almost. Ren saw it in the way his jaw tightened and his eyes went bright. But he held it together the way men of his generation hold things together. With stubbornness and silence and the quiet knowledge that falling apart is a luxury he couldn't afford in front of a child. He stood, nodded to Ren, walked out. The evening settled. Lorraine ordered food from the hotel restaurant. Josie ate an entire plate, the first full meal she'd had in 2 days. Holt sat in the corner chair with his arms crossed and his eyes on the door and his jaw set at an angle that said he was prepared to sit in that exact position for the rest of his natural life, if that's what it took. Around 9 o'clock, Rena convinced Ren to sleep. 2 hours. That's all I'm asking. You've been awake for over 40 hours. You're running on caffeine and adrenaline, and that combination has an expiration date. Ren looked at Josie. The girl was asleep, curled on her side. The leather jacket from Cutter draped over her shoulders like a blanket. 2 hours, Ren said. She closed her eyes. She slept. She dreamed about Tanner. Not the dying Tanner, the alive one. The one with the stupid grin and the dog-eared paperback and the photo of his daughter taped inside his helmet. In the dream, he was sitting across from her at a mess hall table in Helmand Province, eating powdered eggs, grinning. You kept your promise, Ren. Took me long enough. Yeah, it did. But you kept it. That's what matters. She's safe, Tanner. I know, I've been watching. She's got your eyes, and her mother's spine. That kid's tougher than both of us. I'm scared, Tanner. I don't know how to raise a kid. Nobody does. You just show up every day and try not to screw it up too badly. Kind of like being a soldier, except the food's better. She almost laughed, even in the dream. Thank you, Ren, for not giving up. I gave up once, but you came back. That's the part that counts. The morning came, clear and bright and new. The kind of morning that felt like a reset, like the world had decided to try again. They loaded up at 7. The Iron Shepherds were assembled in the hotel parking lot, every single one of them. 97 riders who had ridden 620 miles and stayed through the night and waited through a trial and guarded a hotel room and faced down cops with fake warrants and done all of it without throwing a punch or breaking a law. Josie came downstairs in Shelby's blue dress and Cutter's leather jacket. She looked like exactly what she was. A girl caught between grief and hope, between childhood and something harder, between the family she had lost and the one she had found. Cutter was waiting. He held out a second jacket. Full-sized, official. This one's for the ride home, he said. Official Iron Shepherds issue. You earned it. Josie put it on, looked at the patch on the back, traced the letters with her finger. Family, she read. That's right, and family means we ride together. Ren walked to her Harley. Josie followed. You ever been on a motorcycle, kiddo? No. You scared? A little. Good. That means you're paying attention. Here's the deal. You hold on tight, you lean when I lean, and you don't let go. She handed Josie a helmet, helped her onto the back of the Road King. Ready, ready! Ren kicked the engine to life. The rumble shook through both of them. Josie's arms wrapped around Ren's waist. Tight, certain, the grip of someone who had learned the hard way what it means to hold on and was never going to let go again. One by one, the other bikes started. 97 engines. The sound filled the parking lot and rolled out across the city like a wave. They pulled out, formed up, 2 columns, staggered formation. Boone on the left flank, Cutter's trike holding steady on the right, Red and Rena in the middle, Whisper at the back. Watching, always watching. The convoy headed west, toward Tucson, toward home, toward whatever came next. They rode through the morning light, past the desert and the mesas and the moose empty stretches of highway where the sky meets the earth and you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Boone pulled up beside them, gave a thumbs up. Cutter on the other side, saluted. Behind them, 94 more riders. An army of ordinary people who had done an extraordinary thing for no reason, other than because someone asked and because it was right. Josie rested her head against Ren's back. The vibration of the engine hummed through both of them. The wind pulled at their jackets and tugged at the loose strands of Josie's hair beneath the helmet. Aunt Ren, yeah, kiddo. Do you think my dad can see us? Ren's throat tightened. The highway blurred for a moment. She blinked it clear. Yeah, I think he can. Do you think he's proud? I know he is. A pause, the engine rumbling, the wind singing, the desert stretching endlessly in every direction. I am too, Josie said. Of you, of all of them, of everyone who came. Ren didn't trust herself to speak. She just reached down with one hand and squeezed Josie's fingers where they gripped her waist. A small gesture, brief, but it said everything. They rode on, into the growing light, into the vast open space between who they had been and who they were becoming. The convoy stretched behind them like a river of chrome and leather and loyalty, because promises are not just words. They are miles ridden in the dark. They are hands held in hospital rooms. They are truths spoken in courtrooms when every instinct says stay silent. They are 97 people who did not know a girl but rode 620 miles anyway because someone they trusted said she needs us. They are family. And family, real family, does not give up. Not on each other, not on promises, not on the broken and the scared and the ones who have been told they are alone in the world. Josie Caldwell was not alone. She was protected. She was loved. She was riding home on the back of a motorcycle driven by a woman who had finally kept the only promise that ever truly mattered. And the desert sky stretched above them, enormous and blue, and full of the kind of light that makes you believe, even if just for a moment, that the world is capable of keeping its promises too.